Hey everybody, welcome back to No More, No Less. I'm Michael Ceccin, and today in the virtual studio, I'm happy to have with me Bob Moog. Bob is one of the most recognizable people in the toy and game industry. He's the founder of University Games, the largest independent game and puzzle company in the world. And currently, University Games' Pub Trivia is one of the top adult games in the US. Now, I've always loved board games, card games, dice games, anything that we can compete and have points, I'm in. And so I'm super fascinated about the entire process from concept to creation to testing to marketing and everything else. So without further ado, let's dive in. Bob Moog, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here, and looking forward to talking with you and your listeners.
Before we started recording, you mentioned that you guys have been around since the 80s, and that shows a lot of staying power over years to change with the times and how people consume games. So I guess we could start at the beginning. Like, how did you get started in such an industry?
Uh, okay. When I grew up in Missouri and was the oldest of five kids, and as the oldest in the family, I often was in charge of the other four. And we found that board games was a great way to involve everybody, from a 3-year-old to a 10-year-old. And so I always liked board games. And when I got out of graduate school, uh, I wanted to start my own company, and we looked at various types of businesses to start, and this was in the 1980s. And so the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to have my own um, brew pub, my own micro brew pub, because the legislation had changed in 1982, allowing people to brew beer on premise and sell it. From Prohibition until 1982, there were no brew pubs. You weren't allowed to do it. You had to,
Wow.
the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms required the brewing of beer to be in a separate place, in a separate facility than the selling of beer. And the legislation changed nationally in 1982. And so people were just starting to do the early brew pubs and the early microbreweries. Um, we ended up looking at that, and we decided that it was too expensive to buy all the equipment to learn how to brew beer. So then we switched to the idea of novelty ice cream. I wanted to do something that was a consumer product, and the Dove Bar had just come out. Right, it's hard to believe, but back then the concept
Sure.
of thick, chocolatey ice cream bars, and we looked into that. But the problem with ice cream is it melts, so you have to have refrigerated trucks,
Nightmare.
and it was going to be, again, very expensive to get going. The third thing that I really liked at the time was playing Trivial Pursuit, which came out in the early 80s. And I had this friend of mine who was an accountant, and he said, well, why don't we do that? Do you think you could invent games like Trivial Pursuit? And being in my 20s and being cocky and being confident, I said, yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. Let's do it. So with $20,000 on April 1st, 1985, we started University Games. And the goal was to develop really fun games for university age students and to sell them through college bookstores. And then the company has bootstrapped and evolved from our initial $20,000 to being a global company today.